Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Chapter 15. We are now in the second half of the Lotus Sutra, or the middle part, if you like, where we are completely focused on what it is to practice the Bodhisattva way. I have something else on my mind to talk about, but I think I'll make it a separate video because it's too important to just throw in front of this. I want whatever I talk about, if there are any asides, to at least relate to the chapter that we're talking about. So it relates a little bit, but we'll see. Maybe it'll come up as I read this. So in this translation, chapter 15 is called Springing Up from the Earth. And in the 19th century, this book translated as Issuing of Bodhisattvas from the Gaps of the Earth, which is a little more accurate to the translation. But that's kind of a label for the chapter. The meaning of the chapter is what I'm going to try to bring out. So let us do Daimoku Sansho together to open that Buddha mind so that we can communicate effectively. Thank you. Here we go. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam. Thank you so much. Okay. I apologize. I have a tooth that's bothering me, so I hope I don't grimace too much, but that's what's going on if you're wondering. At that time, the Bodhisattvas, the great ones, who had come from other lands and were more numerous than the sands of 8 Ganges, lots of Bodhisattvas, they arose in the great assembly and with palms together greeted and spoke to the Buddha, saying, quote, "World-honored one, if the Buddha will allow us diligently and devotedly to protect and embrace this sutra, read and recite it, copy it, and make offerings to it in this world after your extinction, we would teach it everywhere throughout this land." So this is an exhortation by all who hear this sutra that that they continue to promulgate it. How does Shakyamuni respond? Then the Buddha said to the whole group of Bodhisattva great ones, quote, "Enough, my good sons, there is no need for you to protect and embrace this sutra." Why? Because in my world itself, there are as many Bodhisattvas great ones as there are sands of 60,000 Ganges. And each of these Bodhisattvas has as many followers as there are sands in 60,000 Ganges. After my extinction, they will be able to protect and embrace, read and recite, and teach this sutra everywhere. When the Buddha had said this, the earth of this 3,000 great thousandfold world trembled and split open, and from it innumerable tens of millions of billions of Bodhisattva great ones sprang up together. These Bodhisattvas all had golden-hued bodies, the 32 characteristics, and immeasurable radiance. In other words, they had attained the Buddha way. Previously, they had all been living in the world of empty space below this world. And when these Bodhisattvas heard the sound of the voice of Shakyamuni Buddha preaching, they appeared from below. Now, maybe you're not familiar with the cosmological kind of verbiage here. When they talk about below and above and Jampudvipa, it's really kind of a flat earth vision. Not that they believed in a flat earth, but in their uh, their cosmology. Jampudvipa is a land that goes in all directions, up and down. So it's everything. It's the universe. And when they talk about things springing from below or beneath, they're not talking about the molten core of the earth. They're talking about this Jampudvipa as really kind of a flat representation of all space and time. So when things come from below, it just means that they've been hidden, not that they are below, like Westerners tend to think of hell below and heaven above. Um, Heaven happens a lot in the translations, but they're really talking is above uh, what radiates throughout Jampudvipa. And when they talk about below, they're talking about hidden or the future, what is to come. So in this case, this is an illustration that to all who hear me now, of course, you're going to practice the Bodhisattva way now, and part of that is to read, recite, copy, teach. But after I'm gone, don't worry, because in a future time, all of these Bodhisattva teachers will spring up into Jampudvipa. So what this is an analogy of the future. It's actually, and this is why it's interpreted this way in many sects, it's actually a representation of you and I, because we have sprung up from Jampudvipa in a time far after the Buddha's extinction. And we have sprung up to learn, embrace, read, write, copy, teach this sutra. Follow? I apologize. I ate a salad and it had a lot of ground pepper in it, and I guess it's tickling my throat. So, full of all sorts of excuses this morning. Sorry. Each of these bodhisattvas was the leader of a huge group, a following as numerous as the sands of 60,000 Ganges. Now we're tripling down on the 60,000 Ganges. It's a lot. And this is not to mention those who led followings as numerous as the sands of 50,000, 40,000, 30,000, 20,000, or 10,000 Ganges, or those who had followings as small as the sands of one Ganges. Oh, just that paltry sum. The sands of half a Ganges, a quarter of a Ganges, or even fewer as 1 part in 10 million billion myriads of Ganges. Or those with as few as 10 million billion myriads of followers. Just that. Or 1 billion followers, or 10 million, a million, or just 10,000, 1,000, 100, or even 10. Or those who led 5, 4, 3, or 2 disciples, or only 1. Or those who were alone, preferring solitary practice. Such were they, then, as to be innumerable, unlimited, beyond comprehension by powers of calculation or parable and simile. So you can't just know. Well, that's kind of indicating what we observe, isn't it? The population just keeps growing on the earth. Some say that it'll bottom out or top out at around 11 billion, and we're well on the way there. I think we're approaching 8 billion now. Nothing like these numbers, of course. But I suppose if you were to add all of the people who've lived and died over the last 2,600 years, there might be a few sands of the Ganges in that number. After all, 8 billion is just people living now, today. When these bodhisattvas had emerged from the earth, each went up into the air to the wonderful stupa of the seven precious materials, where Tathagata abundant treasures and Shakyamuni Buddha were. When they reached it, they bowed and prostrated themselves to both world-honored ones. Then they went to the Buddhas seated on the lion seats under the jeweled trees and greeted them, circled around them to the right 3 times, with palms together in respect, and praised them with all kinds of bodhisattva praise. Then they stood to one side, gazing with joy at the 2 world-honored ones. While these bodhisattva great ones who had sprung up from the earth praised the Buddhas with all kinds of bodhisattva praises, 50 small eons went by. Small ones. During this time, Shakyamuni Buddha sat in silence, and silent also for the 50 eons were the 4 groups. But the divine powers of the Buddha made it seem to the great multitude like only half a day. At that time, the 4 groups also, by the divine powers of the Buddha, saw the bodhisattvas filling the skies of innumerable hundreds of thousands of billions of lands. Among all these bodhisattvas were the 4 leaders. The first named superior practice, the second ultimate unlimited practice, the third pure practice, and the fourth firm practice. These 4 bodhisattvas were the foremost leaders and teachers of the entire group. Before the great assembly, with palms together, each of them looked toward Shakyamuni Buddha and inquired, quote, "World-honored one, are your ailments and troubles few, and is your practice going smoothly? Are those you want to save readily receiving your teachings? Doesn't the effort they require make the world-honored one tired?" Then the 4 great bodhisattvas said in verse, "Is the world-honored one at ease, with few ailments and troubles? In teaching all the living, are you free from weariness? And are all living, all the living, readily accepting your teachings? Don't they make the world-honored one tired?" Then the world-honored one in the great assembly of bodhisattvas said, "Yes, yes, my good sons, the Tathagata is at ease, with few ailments and few troubles. The living beings here are easy to transform and save, and they do not make me tired. Why? Because all these beings, for generation after generation, have been transformed by me. And they have made offerings to previous Buddhas and honored them, planting good roots. When all these beings saw me for the first time and heard my preaching, they received it in conviction and determination and entered the wisdom of the Tathagata. The exception was those who had previously studied and practiced the small vehicle. But now I have made it possible even for such people to hear this sutra and enter the Buddha wisdom." Then these great bodhisattvas spoke in verse. Good, great hero, world-honored one, all these living beings are easily transformed and saved. There they will be able to inquire about the profound wisdom of Buddhas, and upon hearing, have the determined, strong mind and understanding. We rejoice. Then the world-honored one praised these leaders, the great bodhisattvas, saying, Good, my good sons, you express joy in your hearts for the Tathagata." Then Maitreya Bodhisattva and the multitude of other bodhisattvas, those who were already there, as numerous as the sands of 8,000 Ganges, see, that's how you know they're the ones who are already there, they're quantified, all thought, never in the past have we seen or heard of such a multitude of great bodhisattvas, great ones, emerging from the earth, standing now in the presence of the world-honored ones with palms together, making offerings and inquiring about the Tathagata. Then Maitreya Bodhisattva, the great one, aware of thoughts in the minds of all the bodhisattvas, as numerous as the sands of 8,000 Ganges, and wanting also to resolve his own doubt, put his palms together, facing the Buddha, and asked him in verse, "Innumerable tens of millions of billions, a great multitude of bodhisattvas, such as we have never seen before. Please, most honored of people, explain where they have come from, and why they have come. Huge in body, with the great divine faculties, with incomprehensible wisdom, strength in mind and will, and great powers of patience. See, there's that strong mind thing spelled out. Strength in mind and will, not faith. And great powers of patience, whom all the living rejoice to see. Where have they come from? Each of these bodhisattvas leads a following with numbers beyond counting, like the sands of the Ganges. Some of these great bodhisattvas lead followers as numerous as the sands of 60,000 Ganges. Such great multitudes with complete devotion seek the Buddha way. These great leaders, sorry, these great leaders, as many as the sands of 60,000 Ganges, all come to make offerings to the Buddha and to protect and embrace this sutra. Some, still more numerous, lead followers as numerous as the sands of 50,000 Ganges, or 40,000, 20, so on and so forth. Those who lead billions of myriads or trillions of disciples, or even 500 million, are still more numerous. Those with 1 million, on and on. These great multitudes are such that if someone tried to tally them on an abacus for as many eons as the sands of the Ganges, they still could not know how many there are. These multitudes of bodhisattvas, with their great dignity, virtue, and diligence, who taught the Dharma for them, educated, transformed, and developed them, under whom did they begin to seek awakening? What Buddha Dharma do they praise? What sutras have they received, embraced, and practiced? What Buddha way have they studied and put into practice? We've never seen them before. In all 4 regions, the earth trembled and split. And these bodhisattvas, with divine powers and the power of great wisdom, emerged from within it. World-honored one, in the past we have never seen such things. Please tell us where they came from and the name of that land. I have traveled around in many lands, but have never seen such a thing as this. In all of this multitude, there is not one that I know. Suddenly they have come from the earth. Please tell us why. The innumerable millions and millions of bodhisattvas and others now here in this great congregation want to know these things. What are the reasons for the beginning and end of this multitude of bodhisattvas? World-honored one of immeasurable virtue, please dispel the doubts of this congregation. Meanwhile, the Buddhas embodying Shakyamuni Buddha, who had come from innumerable tens of millions of billions of lands in other directions, were sitting cross-legged on the lion seats under the jewel trees spread out in the 8 directions. The attendants of these Buddhas all saw the great multitude of bodhisattvas who emerged from the earth in all 4 regions of the 3,000 great thousandfold world and were now suspended in the air. Each spoke to his own Buddha, saying, World-honored one, this great, innumerable, unlimited, countless multitude of bodhisattvas, where have they come from? Then each of those Buddhas told his own attendants, Good sons, wait a minute, wait a while. Wait a minute. Wait a while. There is a bodhisattva great one named Maitreya, who has been assured by Shakyamuni Buddha that he is to be the next Buddha. He has already asked about this matter, and the Buddha is about to answer him. You should listen for yourselves to what he has to say. So this is a question throughout time now. Then Shakyamuni Buddha said to Maitreya Bodhisattva, Good, Ajita, that you have asked the Buddha about so great a matter. All of you, with complete devotion, should put on the armor of perseverance and exhibit a firm will. There it is again. Not faith. The Tathagata now intends to reveal and proclaim the wisdom of Buddhas, the unhindered divine powers of Buddhas, the fierce lion-like powers of Buddhas, and the brave and mighty powers of Buddha. Then the world-honored one wanting to state his meaning once again, spoken verse. Persevere and pay attention. I am about to explain this matter. Have no doubts or regrets. Buddha wisdom is difficult to understand. Now show your determined mind, your strong mind. Be patient and good. For you are all about to hear the Dharma never heard before. I will now put your minds at ease. Have neither doubt nor fear. The Buddha has only true words. His wisdom is beyond measure. The supreme Dharma he attained is profound and beyond analysis. I will now teach it. Give me your complete attention and listen. Then the world-honored one, having spoke these verses, said to Maitreya Bodhisattva, quote, I now declare to all of you in this great assembly, Ajita, that all these great Bodhisattva, great ones, in unquantifiable, innumerable, countless numbers, who have emerged from the earth and whom you have never seen before, after attaining supreme awakening in this world, I taught, transformed, and led these Bodhisattvas, trained them, and caused them to aspire to the way. All these Bodhisattvas live in the empty space beneath this world, where they read, recite, gain insight into, ponder over, and analyze various sutras and remember them correctly. Ajita, these good sons find no pleasure in talking among the crowd, but enjoy being in quiet places, diligently and persistently practicing without rest. They do not rely only on human or heavenly beings, but always delight in profound wisdom, being free from obstacles. They always delight in the Dharma of Buddhas, with complete devotion, persistently seeking unexcelled wisdom. Single-mindedly, remember? Now again, what he's talking about, beneath the world, empty space, right? If you're into science, go check out Lawrence Krauss's talks and books on dark energy. And he's a scientist, so he's going to speak scientifically, but it'll make you curious when he talks about a universe from nothing, a quantum wave theory, which comes after that book, talking about space where particles pop into existence and disappear. You know, it's happening all the time. Every single nanosecond. It's happening all the time. Like us. Like moment to moment, right? Then the world-honored one, wanting to proclaim this teaching once again, spoke in verse. Ajita, you should know. All these great bodhisattvas for innumerable eons have studied and practiced the wisdom of the Buddha. All of them are my converts. I made them aspire to the great way. They are my children, living in this world and following ascetic practices. Liking quiet places, rejecting the noise of crowds, finding no pleasure in much talk. Such sons as these study and practice my Dharma and way, preserving day and night in order to see the Buddha way. They live in the space beneath the world, the space. Firm in the power of their intentions, always diligently seeking wisdom, they teach all kinds of wonderful things and are without fear. In the city of Gaya, sitting under the Bodhi tree, I attained the truest awakening and turned the unexcelled Dharma wheel. Then I taught and transformed them, causing them to aspire to the way for the first time. Now they all live in the state of never backsliding, and all will become Buddhas. What I say now is true. Believe me wholeheartedly. From the long distant past, I have been teaching and transforming this multitude. Now, this is his first hint. What he's saying so far is confusing to them. How could you have taught all these people that we've never seen or heard from before, who are coming from space, emptiness beneath the world? This is confounding them, because they still live in their world of time and space. So there's a clue here. I'm not going to give it away yet. Then Maitreya Bodhisattva, the Great One, as well as the innumerable Bodhisattvas, had some doubt in their mind. Wondering how this strange and unprecedented thing, they thought, how has the world-honored one in so short a time taught and transformed such an innumerable, unlimited, countless number of great bodhisattvas, enabling them to dwell in supreme awakening? How is it even possible? There's too many of them. Then, addressing the Buddha, he said, World-honored one, when the Tathagata was a crown prince, you left the Shakya palace, sat at the place of the way, not far from the city of Gaya, and attained supreme awakening. Since then, only a little over 40 years has passed. World-honored one, in so short a time, how could you have done so much work of a Buddha? By what powers of Buddha, or blessings of a Buddha, have you taught and transformed such an innumerable multitude of great bodhisattvas, enabling them to attain supreme awakening? World-honored one, even if someone counted such a multitude of great bodhisattvas through tens of millions of billions of eons, one would never come to the end or reach their limit. From the remote past, under innumerable and countless Buddhas, they would have planted roots of goodness, fulfilled the bodhisattva way, and always observed noble practices. World-honored one, the world will find it hard to believe a thing such as this. It is as if a 25-year-old man of fine complexion and black hair pointed to a 100-year-old person and said, "This is my child." Or it is as if a 100-year-old pointed to a young person and said, "This is the man who fathered and raised me." This would be hard to believe. So also is what the Buddha has said. It's pretty confrontational. Actually, it has not been long since you attained the way. Yet this great multitude of bodhisattvas, for innumerable tens of millions of billions of eons, have already diligently devoted themselves for the sake of the Buddha way. They have entered into, come out of, and dwelt in innumerable hundreds of thousands of billions of concentrations, have attained the great divine faculties, and for a long time observed noble practices. Step by step, they have been able to learn all kinds of good teachings, and they are skillful in questions and answers. There are treasures among people, and extremely rare in all the worlds. And now today, the world-honored one has told us that in the time since you attained the Buddha way, you have caused them to aspire to awakening, have taught and transformed them, led them and enabled them to turn towards supreme awakening? It is not long ago that the world-honored one became a Buddha. Yet you have been able to carry out this great meritorious activity. We still believe that the Buddha's preaching is appropriate, that you never say anything empty or false, and that the Buddha's knowledge has all thoroughly penetrated and been mastered. But if, after the Buddha's extinction, newly aspiring bodhisattvas hear this, they may not be able to receive or believe it, causing the crime of violating the Dharma. Therefore, world-honored one, please explain it, to put our doubts to rest, so that in the future, when good sons hear of this matter, they too have no doubts. Then Maitreya Bodhisattva, wanting to restate what he meant, spoke in verse. In the past, the Buddha left his home at the Shakya clan and sat under the Bodhi tree at Gaya. That was not long ago. Yet these children of the Buddha, uncountable in number, have already practiced the Buddha way for a long time with divine powers and power of wisdom. They have learned the Bodhisattva way well and are untainted by worldly things, just as the lotus flower in the water emerges from the earth. Renge. All of them show reverence as they stand before the world-honored one. Don't let that go by so easily. Just as the lotus flower in the water emerges from the earth, these bodhisattvas have emerged from the earth. Don't miss these little subtleties, because they're important. And once again, it's time for me to plug in the laptop. I caught it this time. All of them show reverence as they stand before the world honored one. This matter is difficult to understand or discuss. How can it be believed? It is only recently that the Buddha attained the way, yet the number of your accomplishments is huge. Please remove the doubts from the assembly, explain it clearly, and tell us the truth. It is as if a young man, just 25 years old, pointed at a 100-year-old man with white hair and wrinkled face and said, "I fathered him." So it goes on repeating everything we've already read. In order to pursue the Buddha way, they have lived in a space below. Hearing this from the Buddha, we have no doubts in this matter, but so that it can be understood in the future, we beg the Buddha to preach. If any should have doubts about or fail to believe this sutra, they will fall into evil ways. Please explain it for them now. How have these innumerable bodhisattvas in such a short time been taught, transformed, and led to have aspiration and reach the stage of never backsliding? And that is the perfect intro to chapter 16, which we chant in Gangyo as one of the very significant chapters of the Lotus Sutra. That's for the next video, called The Lifetime of the Tathagata. It's a pretty common title. There's subtle differences in different translations, but that's basically what the next one is called. Let's see what he called it in the 19th century. Duration of the life of the Tathagata. Basically, same thing. I like the forensic nature of the older translation, but that's because English is kind of a fetish for me, being French Canadian. Anyway, I hope that I whetted your taste buds for the next chapter. It's quite a build-up to it. As I said, there's a hint in it, in this one, about this very question. It's appropriate that it's a separate chapter because it is a great focus and a great aha moment for all of the practicants of Buddhism. Especially any practicant, anyone who practices Buddhism, studies Buddhism, who is still attached to the idea that Buddha is a person. The next chapter is going to blow that apart. So be prepared for that. It's already alluded to in this chapter, and maybe you already got it. Maybe you've already read it. But if you haven't, join me in the 16th chapter. I think you'll find it profound and very interesting. That's actually from Henry Youngman from old Laugh-In days, showing my age. Thank you so much once again for listening along, enjoying my quirkiness. I hope you're enjoying it. If you're still here, you must be. I can't say anything more profound than thank you and Daimoku Sancho, please. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam. Thank you so much. Peace and love, security in your life. We need that more than ever. Thank you.